Boost your English.
From English Podcast with John.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to English Podcast with John. Thanks for joining us today. In this episode, we're talking about how to speak English with more confidence and feel more comfortable expressing yourself. We're here to make your English practice simple, relaxed, and enjoyable. Hey, it is so great to be back chatting about this. I think it's such an important topic. How are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic, thank you.
Huh.
And I'm really excited for this conversation. Confidence is, I think, something that everyone struggles with. It doesn't matter what your level is. How about you? Are you ready to get into some personal stories?
Oh, absolutely. I love talking about this because I feel like it's so much less about grammar rules and, more about the mental game. This should be a really fun, relaxed chat. Before we jump in, I just want to say a quick thank you to everyone who listens every week. If you're enjoying our conversation, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and maybe share it with a friend. Thank you so much to everyone. Now, let's get started. So I think the first thing we really need to talk about is the biggest barrier for most people. It's this intense fear of making a mistake, the kind of fear that just makes you freeze up or overthink really simple sentences.
It is absolutely the number one barrier. It's this internal editor that just screams at you before you can even get a word out. Your brain goes into overdrive trying to make everything perfect.
I have such a clear memory of this. I was learning German. This was years ago, and I was in a professional setting. I had to introduce myself.
Oh, high pressure.
So much pressure. And I was so terrified of messing up the grammar, the cases, and everything that I literally forgot the word for to be. I just blanked. And it wasn't that I didn't know the word. Of course I knew it. It was just my brain was so overloaded with checking everything else that the simplest part just disappeared. My heart was racing. I felt my face get hot, and it was like my mind was just a blank whiteboard.
That is a perfect description of what happens. Your brain's resources, they're finite.
Yeah.
And when you direct all of them to that grammar-checking perfectionist part, there's just nothing left for the part that actually, speaks fluently.
Yeah.
You're basically trying to write a flawless essay in your head in the split second you have to reply in a conversation. It's impossible.
It is. And your brain's safety net is to just translate word for word from your native language, which of course sounds completely unnatural and just makes you even more nervous. It's a vicious cycle.
Yeah, perfectionism really is the enemy of progress here. I remember once trying to explain a complex idea, and I was so focused on getting the sentence structure absolutely perfect. By the time I was ready to speak, the moment had passed. The conversation had moved on, and I could just see the other person had kind of lost interest. I completely missed the chance to connect because I was stuck in my own head.
That feeling of sounding, silly or being misunderstood, it's such a heavy weight to carry, and most of it is a weight we put on ourselves, right?
Totally self-imposed.
What was the specific feeling in that moment you mentioned, the one that made you just want to stop talking immediately?
It was a feeling of frustration, mostly with myself, and a little bit of embarrassment. I felt like I had failed, But the reality is I created that high-stakes situation in my own mind. The other person probably wouldn't have even noticed a small mistake.
That's a great point. Do you think other learners or even native speakers judge mistakes as harshly as we fear they do?
Not even close. I think the internal critic is 1,000 times louder than any external judgment. Most people are just focused on the message. They're trying to understand you, and they appreciate the effort you're making to communicate in their language.
That's so true. Native speakers make mistakes all the time. We use incomplete sentences. We stumble over words. It's just part of talking.
Exactly. Communication is the goal, not a perfect grammar test.
Have you ever had a moment where someone misunderstood you completely because of a mistake? And how did you, fix it without getting flustered?
Oh, for sure. I was trying to say I was in charge of a project, but I used a preposition that made it sound like I was trapped by the project.
Oh, no.
Yeah, the look on their face was pure confusion and maybe a little concern. My first instinct was to panic, but then I just stopped. I took a breath, laughed a little, and simplified.
What did you say?
I just pointed at the project papers and then at myself and said, my responsibility. I lead it. Then I added, simple words are better. And that little bit of humor just broke the tension instantly. We both laughed and it was fine.
That's a great recovery. It shows that you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be willing to clarify. You prioritize connecting over being correct.
And that's the mindset shift, right? Moving away from, I must be perfect, to my goal is just to be understood.
Exactly. Which I think is the perfect transition to our next point. It's all about changing that internal story we tell ourselves. The goal has to be simple communication.
Right. It's about celebrating the small wins. Did they understand your main point? Great. That's a success. Don't worry about the tiny article you missed.
I know someone, a friend, who got a major internship in the US using very, very basic English. Her grammar was definitely not perfect, but she spoke with so much confidence.
And that's what people notice.
Totally. She focused on her tone, on making eye contact, and on getting her ideas across clearly, even with simple words. The interviewers were more impressed by her confidence and her passion than her perfect verb tenses.
That's such a powerful story because it proves that clarity and confidence are so much more important than accuracy, especially at first. By using simple vocabulary, she lowered the risk of making a big mistake, which in turn probably boosted her confidence even more.
It's a positive feedback loop.
For sure. And it also highlights the power of having a small, reliable set of tools. You don't need to know every word in the dictionary. If you know 10 simple phrases really well, you can start 10 different conversations with confidence.
That's so true. Confidence comes from knowing you have something you can rely on, a foundation to build from.
Exactly. And it allows you to accept a good enough level of communication. When you relax and stop aiming for perfection, you actually, ironically, end up speaking more fluently because your brain isn't fighting itself anymore.
So on a personal level, when you feel nervous or maybe a bit unprepared, what's one simple, reliable phrase you use to just buy yourself a little time to think?
That's a great question. I think silence can feel really scary in a conversation. So I rely on what you could call conversational bridges. I'll say something like, that's a really interesting point. Let me just think about that for a second.
Like that.
Or even just, right, okay. It signals to the other person that I'm engaged in processing, not that I'm lost or don't have an answer. It buys you a crucial 3 to 5 seconds.
And it keeps the conversation flowing. How important do you think body language is in those moments when you're searching for a word?
Oh, it's essential. Communication is so much more than just words. If you maintain eye contact, nod, maybe lean in a little, you're showing that you are present and trying. That nonverbal effort bridges the gap when your vocabulary falls short.
Yeah, your intent is clear even if the words aren't perfect.
Exactly. People respond to the effort.
Can you share a time when a really simple, maybe even clumsy phrase just worked perfectly for you in another country?
Definitely. I was in Italy trying to find a train platform, and my Italian was, let's say, very minimal. I just held up my ticket, pointed at the platform number, and said something like, train number 3, now.
Ah, I love it. Direct and to the point.
It was grammatically a mess. But the station attendant knew exactly what I needed. The core words were there, my body language was clear, and my intent was obvious. The communication was a total success, and honestly, that clumsy interaction built my confidence more than reading a textbook ever could have.
That's brilliant. It's real-world proof that communication beats perfection. Which brings us to how we can actually practice this stuff. The importance of finding, these low-stakes environments.
Yes, places where there is absolutely no judgment, no consequence for making mistakes. This is your training ground.
And it doesn't have to be a formal class or a language exchange, right? It can be much simpler.
Much simpler. I'm a huge fan of narrating your own life out loud, especially when you're just starting to build confidence.
I used to do this. I felt so silly at first, but it really worked.
What did you do?
I would just talk through what I was doing while cooking. Okay, I'm chopping the onions now. Now I am heating up the pan. Just simple observational stuff.
Me too.
Yeah.
And it sounds a bit strange, but what it's really doing is getting you comfortable with the sound of your own voice speaking English. There's no one there to judge you. You're just talking.
And that consistency is key, isn't it? 5 or 10 minutes of that every day is so much better for your confidence than one stressful 2-hour class every week. It just normalizes the language in your brain.
It absolutely does. You're building a habit. In the beginning, the quantity of your speaking time is way more important than the quality. The goal is just to achieve flow, to get used to the words coming out of your mouth without that constant internal editing.
I also find that consuming English media like movies or music helps a lot with this.
How so for you?
Well, it just makes you realize how imperfect real spoken English is. You hear native speakers stumble, use slang, make little grammar mistakes. It takes the language off this like perfect pedestal and makes it feel more human and accessible. You become less critical of yourself.
That's a huge point. It normalizes error. It also builds your intuitive sense of the language, just sounds right.
How long did it take you to find a conversation partner or a group where you felt like zero pressure, where you could just
Oh,
relax?
that took a while. It's probably close to a year of trying different things. What finally worked to me was finding a group that wasn't about language learning at all.
Interesting. What was it about?
It was an online group for people who love board games. We were all so focused on talking about the game, the strategy, that the English we were using just became a tool. Nobody cared about mistakes because we were all just excited about the topic.
That's the secret, isn't it? Shifting the focus away from the language itself and onto a shared interest.
100%.
And from that consistent practice, even on days you didn't feel like it, what was the biggest unexpected benefit you noticed?
The speed of my recall, my reaction time. Even on tired days when I could only manage 5 minutes, I noticed the next day that basic words and phrases came to me much faster. It proved that even that small, consistent effort was strengthening those neural pathways. The language was becoming more automatic.
I love that. It's the small daily habits that build the big results. Okay, last question on this. Singing English songs. Does it actually help break down that self-editing barrier?
I really think it does. When you're singing, you have to follow the rhythm and melody of the song. You can't stop to check your grammar or you'll fall behind.
Right, you're forced to just go with the flow.
Exactly. You're practicing the physical act of producing continuous, unedited English sounds. It's a fantastic way to train your brain and your mouth to work together without that internal critic getting in the way.
So, if we pull this all together, the journey is really from fear to comfort. True confidence isn't about being loud or aggressive. It's about feeling comfortable and authentic.
That is the perfect way to put it. When you get to that level of comfort, you stop translating in your head. That little translator voice finally goes quiet, and you just start thinking in English. You start expressing your real personality.
I had a moment like that. I was telling a friend this long, kind of complicated, funny story, and halfway through, I realized I had completely forgotten what language I was speaking.
That's the moment.
Yeah, the mechanics just disappeared. I wasn't thinking about verbs or vocabulary. I was just focused on telling the story and making my friend laugh. It was about connection, not language.
That is the ultimate goal. When you stop using English and just start being yourself in English, that's when you know you've made it.
It was so freeing. It wasn't about sounding like a native speaker. It was finally about sounding like myself.
And that's why patience and self-compassion are so important. It's not a straight line. You'll have bad days where you feel like you've gone backwards. That's okay. It's part of the process.
You have to be kind to yourself. If you dwell on a mistake, you just reactivate that whole fear cycle we're trying to break.
So if you could go back in time and give one piece of advice to your younger, more nervous self about all this, what would you say?
I think I would tell myself to use the language to be brave, not to be correct. Stop trying to prove you're smart with perfect grammar. Just take risks, make mistakes, focus on connecting with people. That's where the real learning happens.
I love that. I think I'd tell my younger self to stop trying to build the perfect sentence in my head before speaking. I'd say, trust the feeling. Trust the language you've absorbed from listening and reading, and just let it flow, even if it's messy. Messy flow is always, always better than perfect silence.
You know, I have a really quick practical tip for anyone listening who feels that physical panic setting in. Oh, yeah. What is it?
Just force yourself to have a very slight smile. It feels a bit weird at first, but it physically relaxes your jaw and your vocal cords.
Yeah.
It actually makes your tone sound warmer and more relaxed, and it sends a signal to your own brain that this situation isn't a threat.
That is such a great, simple trick. I love it. I'll add one too. Learn 2 or 3 simple filler phrases. Things like, right, let me see, or that's a good question. Native speakers use them all the time to buy thinking time.
Yeah, they're conversational placeholders.
Exactly. They keep the conversation going and stop you from panicking and just blurting out the first thing that comes to mind. They're your little safety net. Wow, this has been such a great conversation. Thank you so much for unpacking all of this with me today.
It was my pleasure. It,
Mm.
it really does all come down to that shift from perfection to just feeling comfortable. That's the real key.
We really hope this chat has encouraged you to keep up with your daily practice. And please tell us about your own confidence challenges or success stories in the comments. We absolutely love hearing from you.
For sure. Remember that small, relaxed steps every day are what lead to the big breakthroughs in confidence. Keep going.
That's right. And we'll be back soon with more conversations to help you on your English journey. Before we go, here's something to think about. If true confidence is just being comfortable enough to show your real personality, could aiming for native-like perfection actually be the very thing that stops you from finding your own authentic voice in English? And one last time, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and share this if you found it useful or motivating. Goodbye, everyone. We'll catch you next time.
Take care, everyone. Keep practicing.
Thanks for the great chat today.
Always a pleasure. See you soon.